Hello, hello. Hello. Hello, hello. I'm just getting set up. Give me a minute here. Hello. Alright, I am just trying out YouTube streaming for the first time. And I don't know exactly how this is going to work, so let me know. Can you hear me alright? I also changed to a different mic. It Seems like the lag is maybe significantly slower than the than Twitch. That kind of sucks. We'll see. All right, let's see. What are we going to do today? All right, I'm almost ready. Give me one more second here. All right, this is a test. I'm just checking the delay. All right, this is a test. I'm just checking the... Okay, that's not too bad. All right, let's get started. Oops. Hello, hello. All right, I need to move some windows around. Let's see. So this is about right. Okay, and then I'll move this here too, just in case. And all right, welcome. Looks like we got a couple of people watching. If anyone has an opinion, I can't decide. I'm sort of torn between picking up where we left off last time, which is basically building a little sort of feature request management app in Verbs, versus potentially just working on a Verbs feature. I was thinking about just tackling a few quality of life improvements in a PR. And if anyone has an opinion on which we should do, let me know now. Otherwise, I'm going to also just peek at the repo and see what we've got going on. We've got the metadata thing, we've got the Livewire thing. Yeah, that's an issue. Adding a replay command potentially. Or stubbing out the implementation of event versioning, I could see doing. Or even I have a few sort of things that I want to implement. Let me just switch the camera for a second and look at linear. Oh, it's already switched. All right, you guys can see this. We have some internal tickets here, and trying to figure out sort of how do we make the commit story a little bit better is another thing that I could see working on. Auto committing. Yeah. So if anyone in the chat, oh wait, top, let's see. I was in top chat. What the heck? All right. There we go. Okay, so if anyone has an opinion about which one of those I should take on, let me know now. Otherwise, I'm going to pick one. And I'm tempted. There are a few little quality of life improvements that I could see. I could see tackling in the actual package itself. But if folks want to see just working on, yeah, no problem. The first live stream we did, we just started to build a little app using Verbs, and so that's this right here. We just called it My Requests. It's just like a sort of simple like feature request app that we started to stub out, just to kind of get a feel, show the feel of what building with Verbs is like. And so that was one option. Just sort of taking this and picking up from where we left off. I can't remember. Basically just like stubbing out some events and states and then, putting them together. Probably we could see about tackling the HTTP layer. Actually, how would you fire these things from a real, a real web app? So that was one of the options I was talking about. Or the other would be actually going into the Verbs code base and implementing a feature. The main one that I was thinking about is right now, when you fire an event, some of that goes through this pending event class. So pending event is just sort of like a pending object that lets you fluently chain on different things. But not everything goes through the pending event class. And I would like to normalize that so that essentially instead of there being a fire method on the event class itself and a fire method on the pending event that basically do the same thing, I was thinking we could move this over to just like a call static that forwards all calls onto a pending event, and then potentially tackle sort of like this idea of, I think there should be a fireNow method, which essentially would fire the event, commit it immediately, and then let you get the result of any handle method that's called there. So that, for example, if you are firing an event that creates a new database model, you can have access to that model immediately after you call the fire method. So that's a feature that I want to tinker around with, and I could see working on something like that. So I think unless someone tells me otherwise, that's what I'm going to take on. Let me just real quick switch one thing here. All right, that's what it's going to be then. So let's see what we're going to do here. So in Verbs, most of our testing happens in these examples, which I think is really cool. These are basically like full stack little apps that all sit inside the examples folder, but each of these have their own test suite that you can run and see sort of different ways to approach building with verbs, right? So this is probably the most complicated example, which is starting to try to rebuild or build the logic for the game Monopoly in Verbs, down to a very, very straightforward counter example of being able to count up and down. But we don't have a ton of tests that are just straight, straight framework or package tests. So maybe what we can do is add a new test here called, I guess this could be a unit test. We don't really have this distinction in the project, but we'll call this event API test. I guess maybe we'll mock things for this. I don't love mocking, but in a package test suite, sometimes it feels a little bit more appropriate. But what do I want to do? So basically, what I'm thinking is I want to do a couple things, but one should be I want to be able to say, like, imagine I have, like, user registered fire, right? And we give it some data here, like name, Chris, or whatever. The annoying thing is right now in Verbs, you kind of have to do get my event, right? And then I would have to do like Verbs commit to commit this event. That's going to trigger a handle. And then I would have to say, user, first where, and I'd have to query the user that was going to be created by this event. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. So what I really want is to be able to say, like, user equals user registered fireNow. And then in my user registered class, I will have a handle method, and I'm going to return a user here, right? So I'm going to create the user here, and then I'm going to return it in my handle. And I want Verbs to be able to pass that back through this fireNow method, so that there's sort of a nice straight path between when you when you fire the event and when you get the result of that event being fired. But I don't want to add a bunch of more static methods to the Verbs event class. So I'd rather move this stuff into pending events. So before we get to here, we'll just leave this as a place to come back to. Before we get to here, let's go into event. And even here you can see, like, pending event make on event is calling pending event make. So before we bother with this, let's just not do anything yet in this. Let's just first add a test for the existing API so that we know that we don't break anything. And it's mostly tested in those examples, but we don't have an explicit test for this. So it returns a pending event when you call event make. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, so let's just say for right now, we just want to get ourselves a user registered event, and then expect event instance of pending event. Yes, right? This should pass. Yes. All right, cool. So now we know that event make. Now we know that we have a test that ensures that event make returns a pending event if we mess with this. And then fire. Let's see. Fire calls. Eventually calls broker fire. So we can add another test. It calls fire on the broker when you call event fire. All right. So we have these mocks. So you can say no, we don't have a mock of the broker. Okay, this feels gross to me, but I'm going to keep on going down this path just for now. This broker equals new broker. This takes this dispatcher. Can I type? Okay, and that's everything that the broker takes. Okay, I guess we could. Well, no, it's fine. So let's see. When I do this same thing right now, we're going to say fire. We don't know actually what we are expecting. What does fire return? Let's see. This fire returns whatever broker fire returns, which is the event itself. Okay, I don't think that needs to be tested. So we're going to say this broker oh no, this needs to be mockery mock broker, because we want a mock here. And I guess we need to say app instance broker class this broker. So now we're replacing the singleton with our own mock. So now, okay, should receive. So this should receive fire. What is it with God, I can never remember how these mockery chains work. This broker should receive fire. It's like with args, right? And then this takes a function. And then let's just see what we get here. Does this work? Okay, so this gets, right, so we can say user registered event. And I'm just going to return true for now. I'm not sure if I even care about this, but and so when I do this, return value must be of type user registered. Verbs event fire. And return. I guess we can do it this way. So let's say fired equals null. Then here we'll take the event, and we'll take, and then we'll use it by reference, fired. I'll say fired equals event. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this in Mockery, but I don't know how to do it. So I'm just gonna say, I don't know if this needs to be right. So at that point, so I think I have to do this again. I think I have to do it by reference, because if you do a short closer, I don't think that is passed by reference ever. Closure, return, and return, and return. Oh, and return arg. There you go. Let's see. Not index 1. This should be index 0. Hey! Okay. And then did not perform any assertions. I would have expected this. Doesn't. Okay, is this a past thing? Because PHP Storm would just call the Mockery assertion for us. Mockery. How do we see? Mockery. Okay, and mock it, should receive and return, do all this stuff, and then how do we tell it to make sure that all of our assertions, all of our expectations, all right, I know in test case, okay, test case extends orchestra, oh, this is orchestra. Okay, there's a, let's see, there's a Laravel test case in here somewhere. Yes. And in the tear down method, it does a bunch of stuff. Okay, if we have mockery close. So let me see, do I have to, in past, do I have to call mockery close explicitly? That seems kind of wild to me. No. Do I have to say once here? Why are we not getting any assertions? So if I don't do this, does this fail? Yeah. Okay, and I bet I don't need to close. Yeah, I wonder why that's not, marking it as, oh, add, interesting. It's not adding it to the count. Huh, I don't know. All right, whatever. Well, we have a test. So we know, now we're saying we should, when we call user registered fire, we should receive fire once with args. And this maybe with args. Is there a way to say it like args of type or something? This can just be that. We don't need to have this reference anymore. And then we can just say return arg instance of user registered. That's actually doing a check now. And now this can be short closure. All right, and we're good. So now we know that these two things, now we know we have some amount of testing on these events, so that if we change things to a call static, we can make sure we didn't break anything. So now we'll just set this up to auto run. We'll move it out of the way for a little while. And let's go into event. So the most obvious thing to me, let's see, Laravel has a concept, has a trait called forwards calls. And really all forwards calls does is handle the bad method call exception and make the error message a little bit nicer for you. But there's also this thing, forward decorated call too, and this does the exception handling, but it also basically says, like, when you forward a call, if the result of that call was fluent, return the object that forwards the calls. I don't think we want that, but I guess we could see forward call to. I don't know if we're going to use that at all. We'll see. So let's just add a call static. And basically anytime, right, anytime we call static, we're going to make a new object, right? And then we're going to call the method that was passed, and we're going to pass the arguments over. And so theoretically, if we go here, now fire can just work, and our test is still passing. So now we don't have to have a static fire method on our event itself. It'll just go through. But this make method is pretty ugly, and I'd love to move this out of the event as well. I'd like to have the event have as little of our stuff in it so that you can put as much of your stuff on it as you want. So let's think about this. So this make method, the reason that it looks the way it does is it's handling a couple things. It's handling the fact that we are passing along the arguments that you give verbs, and I wanted to allow for positional arguments. So, like, basically you should be able to say, like, event fire A, B, C, and if your event has a constructor that accepts 3 strings, that should still work. But you should also be able to say event fire, like, you know, foo equals bar, and pass named constructor arguments. So what we're doing is and then it also just should accept, like, event fire foo bar. And excuse me, maybe that's allowing for too many APIs. And there's a part of me that kind of likes the idea of just always passing named arguments, because I think that just makes things so much more resilient in the future. But right now, essentially what we're doing is, first we're saying if you only pass in one argument and that first argument is an array, yeah, the array API, I mean, should we just kill it? Maybe we just kill it. It doesn't really, I mean, it's not, I don't think, like, fire square bracket, it's not in any example, it's not used anywhere. It's just kind of me being like, this is a Laravel thing, you know. Laravel kind of does that. If you have a method that can accept spread spread arguments, sometimes it looks and says, like, hey, but if the first one is an array, just assume that people meant to pass an array, and it's kind of nice. But basically, this whole block is saying like, okay, if we have arguments but it's not an associative array, first we need to make sure that the event has a constructor, because if it doesn't have a constructor, then you have to pass names, because we need to match to parameter names, to property names. But otherwise, I just basically grab all the parameters of the constructor and then map them back to a name, and then just match those names to the positional arguments. So both of these need access to the event class. They can't, well, the pending event, let's see, the pending event, yeah, the pending event doesn't care here. Because we have access, our pending event always has the event object inside of it. So this could probably move over to pending event make. So let's just see if we take all this stuff over here, now, hey, welcome. Now, let's see if we can just move this. Oops. I do. Let's see if we can just move this stuff over here first and see what happens. So, okay. So now make is going to need to take, no, that, Mark, that's my biggest pet peeve with the Fire API. And honestly, if we go over to the Monopoly example, let's see here. I think it's just called, is it just called Monopoly Test? Yeah. I personally think that the vast majority of times I'm going to be calling, I'm going to be using this verb helper and calling these with the constructor, because otherwise you don't get the autocomplete on Fire either way. So I think that's just kind of like a bummer with the Fire API. And I looked at whether there was some sort of, annotation that we could add to tell IDs that these arguments are passed directly to the Fire, and I couldn't find anything. If anyone knows of one, I did post about it on Twitter, and I didn't get any responses from anyone. But yeah, so my solution is just call the constructor directly instead. And so Fire is just kind of like an API that I probably won't use as much, but I do think that it's useful. So let's see. When we make an event, or when we make a pending event, what do we want to do? Because right now we are using the event serializer to deserialize those arguments back into the event itself. This is another one that I'm not entirely sure about. Maybe folks have an opinion on. But right now, if I do like, foo event Fire, and I say like, created at is, and I give it a string, 2023, 11, 24, some, if I do something like this, Verbs is going to know if my foo event has a created at property that's a carbon instance, Verbs is going to know to convert this string into a carbon instance for me. And that's what this event serializer call does. And what you can see is when we call the event serializer, we're actually telling it, like, create a new instance of this class with these arguments. Now that we're outside of the event object itself, that would mean either we are passing the static, the class name in here, and then deserializing into that object. Or I guess maybe we could just say, we could let this accept an event object or a string, and if it's a string, then we try to deserialize. If it's an event object, I think it's okay. I think it's okay to just say this is a string, and we can say that the parameter that this event is a class string. It's a class string of the verbs event class. Let's think about this. Okay, and then this is going to take an array of arguments. And so if we wanted to keep this behavior, we'd still need this here, because this is where we know how many arguments we got in our actual make call. So we'll leave that out for now. That's fine. But the rest of this, we should be okay. So we're basically replacing these calls to static class with this event class name. So we can do the same stuff, right? If let's see here. If we have a positional array, we're gonna say, okay, do we have arguments, but they're not associative? Throw this. Yeah, we may want to cache this, but basically we're going to say, let's get the parameters of the constructor on this event object. We're going to map them back to a name, and then we're going to combine them with the arguments. You could also, I mean, I think it's realistic, rather than just take the number of arguments were passed, we should probably throw an exception if the names if the names are not the same number of arguments as the collection. So maybe we'll do that here. So if names count is not equal count args, I'm going to throw a new invalid argument exception. What are we going to do? We'll say expected arguments for, let's see here, I guess we'll still say make, but got. Will that handle optional params? Oh, that's a good point. It will. No, it won't. That's really, well, and it's not. It's that's a wrench, right? It won't handle optional parameters. That's correct. It also wouldn't handle variadic parameters. Okay. You know what? It's a great point. We'll just say to do handle optional and right, because that's totally true. So for now, we can just keep it this way because It doesn't handle variadics. Which is a problem. But it does account for the fact that it's optional, right? It's going to take up to and hope. Well, let's see. Yeah, this doesn't really, because it's gonna try to combine them. I actually don't know. Yeah, yeah, you can. I mean, we would have to. We would have to we'd have to map them here. I guess we could map them here. Yeah. Okay. So what if we do map with keys, and we're gonna do something here, right? And we're gonna use args, map with keys, and this we'll get the index. All right, so now we're gonna go through the parameters, one by one, and we can basically say what the value that we want to pass based on some of those arguments. So maybe just do a match. Match true, right? And this is going to be like, if our arguments have a value at this index, then we're going to just use that, right? And then if parameter has get, isn't it has default? There's get default value. Is default value available? Then we'll do parameter get default value, right? So if we've been passed the parameter, then we'll use it. If we have a default value, then we'll use that. Parameter is optional, we'll return a null. So if it doesn't have a default value but is nullable and optional, then we'll just pass a null. This still doesn't account for a variadic. Trying to think that through. So I actually don't know with named arguments or with when you like call a function that has variadic arguments and like call func array or whatever. I honestly don't know what it does with variadics. Like so I think we'll just do throw new runtime exception. Variadic positional arguments are not implemented. And we'll see if this ever, yes, it probably does need to be in a utility for sure. This feels like a thing to extract out into its own place. But for right now, let's just try to move forward. This is going to be an unexpected argument, or invalid argument. Nope. Invalid argument exception. No valid value for parameter get name this is slightly better, right? So now this becomes args. Let me just say all here to turn it to an array. And it's not perfect, but it's a little bit, it's definitely a little bit more resilient to, or it handles the optionals and defaults a little bit better. I like that. Yeah, and we can extract this out to a utility for sure. That makes a lot of sense. But let's just see. So then we actually, so maybe we rename this to class name, and then this becomes event, and this becomes event, and this becomes event. So our tests are still failing because we're passing things in differently, but we should be able, theoretically, delete this whole thing and then just update it here. So we would just say pending equals pending event make static class and arguments pending event make. I guess we don't send. I guess this needs to be like name equals make. This is a little awkward. I'm going to do this for now, but I don't love it. And then, yeah, that's the problem. So, okay, so for right now, I'm going to say if name equals make, we'll do something here. No. If name equals make. Maybe we just need to have, maybe we still need a make method up. I think we still need a method here, and I'm going to call it public static. Yeah, I'm going to call it make for now. Something about this still doesn't feel great to me, but do it. And then here, we're just going to say call static. Yeah, something like that. So do our tests pass now? Let's see. Yeah, all right, we're back to passing. Yeah, I mean, I don't love the need. I don't love the need for a make method here. Like I said, I feel like I want to get as much of this out of the event class as possible. We also don't need this word calls. We're not using it. But maybe this is fine for now. Okay, so then now we've got this. I think we'll worry about extracting this out into its own thing. And instead, what I want is I want to have a public function. Let's actually put this in our test first. So it returns the results of handle when you call event fireNow. It immediately commits and returns. So this is what we're kind of trying to get to. So let's think about how this works. So when we call fire, and I guess now we need to do method static fire. Does that work? And let's add this fire now, and this is going to be mixed result. So we need to think how this is going to work, right? So when you call fire on the event, that passes it through the broker. That passes it through the dispatcher for application, and then it fires it on the dispatcher, and then queues it for commit. And this is what I was saying in the beginning. This is the type of thing that if we mock everything in here, it's going to be so gross. But it does kind of feel like we almost, for this test, we almost want to mock. I almost want to mock some things. I'm not sure what, though. Or maybe not. So, okay, we could get at this test without mocks by basically just saying, when you call user registered fire, we want to assert that that event is queued for commit. And then it hasn't, we could test that it hasn't been queued here. That doesn't feel bad. I guess we could still mock the event store, so we're not actually dealing with writing anything to the database, but even that doesn't really bother me. All right, let's get rid of this stuff and see, because I think it's going to be so much nicer to deal with. So here, I mean, this is not doing anything now. So we basically want to say event queue. Does the queue have? And it's just a public. It's just a public thing. We could either add a helper. Either add a helper here, but for right now, we should just be able to say expect app event queue class event queue. I guess to have count 1 and let's see here. We'll extract this out into a variable so I can use it. And event queue first to the instance of user registered class. I mean, actually, so fire, now fire, so here, does fire actually doesn't return a pending event, it returns static, that's fine. Yeah, so this should give us user registered. I'm not right about that. This should be Yeah, the actual event. Okay. So this actually to be user registered, right? That's actually what this test is. Yeah. So okay, I like this better. And we could say maybe here, and we can maybe rename this to pending, and pending event to be instance of user registered. Yes. All right, so now we're not mocking anything. It's just going to be easier. So now, now we can. I don't know, maybe put some. Well, we don't need to test the other stuff. So all we care about here is if I say user registered fireNow, and I don't know, right here, I'm just going to return an object that has user. It's always going to just do that. So we're going to say result, and we're going to expect our result to be an instance of a standard class, and result user to be, and let's, I don't know why I call that user, let's call it name. All right, so this shouldn't do anything yet, right? Call to undefined method, pending event fireNow. Okay. Is there anything else we want to expect before we fix this? I think we want to grab the event queue, and we want to say, and actually here I can probably models, and event queue to have count of 0. There should be nothing in the queue, right? And let me think about this. That doesn't guarantee that it was committed, but I think it's good enough for me, for now at least. So, okay. Theoretically, the first step is we want to add a fireNow method, right? And what's this going to do? It's going to do public function. It's going to have the same signature, except for this is going to return whatever, we don't know. And this is going to be event this fire. All right, so first we have to fire the event. And then we have to think about how do we get access to the handle, the results of handle on this event. So I can think we could potentially look at in broker, in commit, right? This is calling handle on the event. It's calling handle on the event, and then it's basically recursively calling handle on all the queued events until there are no queued events left. So if somehow in this loop other events get fired, this will just call again until we have all of our events pushed out the queue. So we could theoretically kind of have like an array of results here and push those results like keyed by the event. Yeah, we could push those results. That's kind of bad. We'd have to have like a weak map or an SPL object store or whatever where we could actually key by the original object. The other option is on event. We could store just like a last result, but that kind of feels gross to me too. I think I like this better, where essentially we get ourselves like I don't know, we have our results equals new weak map, and then this handle. Ugh, no, that's gross too. God, this is actually a little tricky. Let me think about this. Because the problem with going down this path is we don't actually know handle, because of the main interface for calling events is through the event itself. But that's not guaranteed. It's possible for an event to be to be handled by an external like projector if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. If you register that projector with the dispatcher, it'll fire it. So we can't get the we can't just like get the result of this handle call because there could be multiple handle calls here. Let me think about this. Does anyone have any thoughts here? We could register some sort of special thing. We could have like a helper class that when we call handle, we check to see if it's the handle method on the event. Or I guess we could just map each of these and get all the results from handle, and then if it's only one result, just pass that result, otherwise pass the array. And that way, if you're calling if for some reason you need multiple handles that all return values, you have access to each value. So this, all right. This feels like something that I'm gonna have to ponder for a little while. I wish that I had an answer, but I don't love any of these. I don't love any of these options. Thinking. Yeah, because I mean, I don't fundamentally dislike handle returning an array of results. So we would have to map through here. this would be mapped instead of each, and we would just get the result of hook handle. So then this would, instead of be void, well, I guess let's see. So this would just return, otherwise we'll return null. Right, so this will call handle on all of our hooks, which means here this is going to be an array. We'll return, and instead of just calling each, we're going to say map the hook to the results of the handle. And actually, we'll return a collection. So then here, so this is going to be an array of the results of all the handle calls. And so the next problem is we need, since we're doing this recursively, we need to, what do we need to do? We're doing this recursively, so we need to, and we do need a weak map here. Where's broker commit called? It's only called here. So we're going to need to potentially say we're going to need to, since this is going to be recursive, we need to say, okay, get us either, if we're calling it recursively, we need to map into existing results. So okay, so here we are. We're going to get our results. We'll say results, and we'll give ourselves a new weak map if we don't have one, but otherwise we'll use the existing map of results. And then here we actually will say results event equals, and then this is going to return a weak map. So basically now what we're going to say is, like, when we call commit, you don't have to pass in results. If we don't have results, we'll new them up. We're going to get the events out of the queue. We're going to write snapshots. If we don't have any more events, then we're going to, I wonder if this should be lower, but if we don't have any events, then we're just going to return the results. Otherwise, we're going to loop through those events. We're going to get the results out, and then call it recursively next time around. If there haven't been any more events pushed, we're eventually going to get these results. So now in our pending event here, we should be able to say results equals at broker commit event. So that gets us the results, the results from our handle method. And then we can say return count results is greater than 1. results, otherwise results, the first result. Right? I don't know. Does that work? Do I still have auto test? No. Hey! Look at that! It passes. God, you love to see it. Neat. Okay. Well, so I'll push this up as a PR. This gets us a potential approach to this. I think I'm not 100% sure that this is the path that I'm going to go down, but I think it's kind of a cool idea. And I do think having some sort of fireNow makes a lot of sense, where you can call this and and just get the result of that handle method immediately. So I like this API. I'm a little uncomfortable with this whole the way we're passing things through the broker. So I want to think about that a little bit. And we definitely need to test that other stuff a little bit more, but this is a good place to stop. Sweet. Well, thank you to those of you who hung out through the end of it. And yeah, I'm going to pick this up again in a little while, but until then, thanks for hanging out.